Hey there, today I'm going to be talking about a character who I am not super familiar with lore-wise, but seems like he will be an Omega level threat on the table. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. I unfortunately don't have any other quippy things to talk about before I talk about the guild's sponsor, so let's talk about them. TRex Games has some great prices for Marvel Crisis Protocol products. Their pre-order prices take 20% off of retail, and then you can use the code TRITEXGGCP5 at checkout for an additional 5% off for a grand total of 25% off because they stack, which is awesome, especially with this new Mystic wave that should be hitting next month, including Dormammu and others. And I feel like it is worth mentioning that TRex also was able to hook me up with the new Amazing Spider-Man and Black Cat pack that isn't out quite yet in the US, and it only took a week to get here from the UK, so don't hesitate to pull the trigger on something you want because it actually still even gets over here quite quickly. As well, thanks to TRex, I'm able to do a monthly giveaway. To enter, all you need to do is leave a comment down in the description of the video and be subscribed to the channel. And with that said, let's talk about one of the newer releases with Omega Red. He has an alter ego of Arkady Gregovich-Rosevich. He has 6 stamina, moves short on a 50mm base, is size 3 and 4 threat. His physical and energy defenses are 3, while he has a mystic defense of 4, so a decently durable body that feels about average for a 4-threat character. But that's about the last average thing about him. His first attack is Carbonadium Coils. It is a physical attack with a range of 3, strength of 5 that costs 0 power. Like most builders, he will gain power equal to the damage dealt, and additionally, if the attack dealt damage, he will heal 1 point of damage from himself. His second attack is also physical when you want it to be. Red Terror has a range of 3, strength of 7 for 4 power, and before choosing a target, you can make the attack either physical or energy. Additionally, if you roll a wild, the attack gains Absorb Essence. This lets you change one of the defending character's crits, wilds, or blocks into a skull, and Omega will then gain 1 power for each die changed this way. So basically a Pierce with benefits. But real quick, I do want to break this down a little bit further so that there aren't any assumptions made. No matter how many wilds you roll, this effect will only trigger once, and only change one of your opponent's dice. The second half of the step says that Omega will gain 1 power per die changed. This is a way to tie the power gain directly to the changing of a die. So you will only ever get 1 power, but if your opponent rolled poorly on their defense, there may not be any essence to absorb. And that then leaves us with his suite of superpowers, the first of which also deserves a bit of a deeper dive. Death Factor is an active power that costs 2. It says this character and enemy characters within range 2 of it with the Poison special condition suffer 2 damage in the order of your choosing. This superpower can only be used once per turn. So this is a nasty ability because, as you'll soon see, Red has plenty of ways to hand out the condition, and as you may have noticed, Omega is immune to poison himself, so at first glance you may think he is immune to his own death factor. I certainly did until I was told otherwise. I think this could have been worded a little bit better, but the point remains that Omega will also take 2 damage to himself, or deal 2 damage to himself, whatever. But getting to distribute the damage as you see fit works out well, so that if he would daze or KO himself, you can make sure you hurt any of the nearby poisoned characters on his way out. Next up is his other active power, Ensnare. It costs 2 and allows Omega to push an enemy character within range 4 and in line of sight towards this character medium. A character can only be pushed by this ability once per turn. This is another solid ability that we've seen just how powerful these kind of pulls can be with Gwen and Core Spider-Man for controlling secure objectives. But Omega takes it a step further and will yank somebody medium. And as a reminder, throws and pushes that a character perform cannot be collided with. So Omega can basically toss someone over his head into the rest of your team who are waiting to beat that individual down. Next up is his first innate ability, and although it has a new name, it is an effect that we are all very familiar with at this point. Carbonadium Armor says that when Omega Red would suffer damage from an enemy effect, reduce the amount suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. This makes his average defenses look even better, and since I've already talked about his immunity to poison, the last ability to talk about is Death Spores. It says enemy characters that end their activation within range 2 of this character gain the Poison Special Condition. And at the end of Omega Red's activation, enemy characters within range 2 gain the Poison Special Condition. And, well, this is gross. Turn 1, you can either move him up to a middle objective and people will get poisoned when they try to contest that point, or you can go later and poison them when he moves into position. Either way, this is a fantastic innate power and will ensure that Death Factor has the chance to be laying out some hurt on Omega's turns. His injured side is very similar to his healthy side, so similar you might even say that they are the same because, well, anyways, let's take a look at what Omega is going to struggle with and what he should be really great at. Let's start with the fact that he should be a very tanky individual. A builder that can also heal him along with his damage reduction ability is really gross. He doesn't have healing factor, which doesn't make him a viable target for exceptional healing, but he'll still be taking the typical punch or collision in stride. His damage output, while not at the top end of the 4th rep bracket, is still pretty respectable. His spender can swap damage types, and has a chance to blank out a defender's die, even if it is a bit expensive power-wise. He also has access to his 2 damage superpower for his poisoned enemies, which is great because outside of shaking the poison condition, there is no avoiding this 2 damage, unless you're an Inhuman, or Captain Marvel, or a Hulk. You get the point. There are some characters who are immune to poison that this won't do anything to, but otherwise 2 damage on maybe 2 or 3 enemies for 2 power and 2 damage to yourself seems totally worth it. Especially when you consider that Omega can pull in his enemies to make it happen, if they are already poisoned at least. But plus, that pull effect for 2 power gives him a lot of control, especially when you consider that it's a range 4 medium push. Unfortunately, all of the good things I just listed cost power, and on average, Big Red won't be making tons of it. Probably enough to use some of the stuff he wants, but unless someone just spiked and gives him a lot of power for his injured side, I don't see him having power to spare. And along with that problem is his lack of mobility. Thankfully, he is supplemented with range 3 attacks and his range 4 pull, but when it comes to getting places or getting pushed out of position, Omega isn't going to have a fun time. In summary, his one standout characteristic is how ridiculously durable he should be over the course of a game. Aside from that, he is above average in some places and below average in others. Which means that Omega Red is going to be a well-balanced character that does really well when he has power, and maybe just a little bit below average when he doesn't. But he also is a character that plays really well into a certain kind of opponent or list, and that is the spam lists. These usually consist of several characters that don't necessarily have resounding durability or damage output, but just use their numbers to overwhelm your opponent. So Omega being able to put out status conditions onto clumped up enemies for free, and having an AoE attack that works against them all is a great start. But also this means that he should be able to tank some really great damage from several 4 dice and 5 dice strikes with his damage reduction ability and his ability to heal with his own builder. So if that's what he plays well into, what does he play well with? We know he is affiliated with the Criminal Syndicate and Cabal, and they each can use him really well. Cabal with Red Skull feeding him a bit more power, and maybe a boost to movement on turn 1 is great for him, and the Syndicate is always looking for more durable bodies. Outside of his home affiliations, I think he can slot in quite well with most teams. He's a great counterpiece to have in your list if you are expecting your opponent to bring Guardians or the new Captain America. The only advice I would bring up is to maybe not throw him into an affiliation that requires power to use, as he doesn't have a lot to begin with. And that is everything I have for today. I want to say thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting me and what I'm doing with this channel as I try to make hopefully this game a little bit more approachable for anybody and everybody who wants to get into it. If you're interested in supporting the channel yourself, check out the links down in the description for the Guild's Patreon page and TRex Games page, where you can use that discount code to let them know I sent you their way. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.